My name is Dr. Rachel Carter. I'm 31 years old, and I never thought my own sister would humiliate me in front of 200 people by calling me a failed teacher at her engagement party. But when I walked in wearing my NASA uniform with my mission patch, the entire room went silent forever. Let me take you back to where this family nightmare began, because what happened at my sister's engagement party was just the explosive finale to years of deliberate cruelty that I had endured in silence. I'm Dr. Rachel Carter, and until 3 months ago, my family thought I was a complete failure. My sister Jessica, 28, was always the golden child, beautiful, popular, engaged to a wealthy lawyer named Bradley, and working as a marketing executive at a Fortune 500 company. She lived in a penthouse apartment, drove a BMW, and never let anyone forget how successful she was. Meanwhile, I was just Rachel, the quiet one who taught high school physics in inner-city Detroit, lived in a modest apartment, and drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic. At least, that's what my family believed. The truth was more complicated than anyone knew. 5 years ago, I had been teaching high school physics while secretly working on my doctorate in aerospace engineering. But what my family didn't know is that I had been selected for NASA's Teacher in Space program, a highly competitive initiative where educators train to become mission specialists and eventually go to the International Space Station. The program required absolute secrecy during the selection and training process. We couldn't tell anyone, not family, not friends, nobody, until we successfully completed the 2-year training program and were officially accepted as astronaut candidates. The competition was brutal. Out of 18,000 applicants, only 12 were chosen. I was one of them. For 2 years, I lived a double life. My family thought I was just teaching during the day and taking night classes for my doctorate. They had no idea I was spending weekends and school breaks at Johnson Space Center in Houston, training in zero-gravity simulators, learning spacecraft systems, and preparing for a mission that would make me one of the first teacher astronauts since the Challenger disaster. The secrecy was necessary because NASA had learned from past experiences that public attention and family pressure could derail candidates during the intensive training process. So I kept quiet, enduring my family's constant criticism and Jessica's endless mockery about my dead-end teaching career. "When are you going to get a real job, Rachel?" she'd ask at every family gathering. "Teaching high school kids who don't even want to learn? You're wasting your life." My parents, Linda and Robert, weren't much better. They constantly compared us, praising Jessica's corporate success while treating my teaching career like a consolation prize. "We're so proud of Jessica's promotion," Mom would gush. "And Rachel, well, at least you have job security, dear." The comments hurt, but I endured them because I knew that everything would change once my mission was announced. I just had to make it through training first. 3 months ago, I received the call that changed everything. "Dr. Carter," the voice on the phone said, "congratulations. You've been selected for STS-157, scheduled for launch in 18 months. You're going to the International Space Station." I had made it. After 2 years of grueling training, I was officially a NASA mission specialist. The press release would go out in 2 weeks, after some final paperwork and security clearances were completed. But before I could tell my family the good news, Jessica called with an announcement of her own. "Rachel, I'm getting engaged," she squealed into the phone. "Bradley proposed last night with a 5-carat ring. We're having the engagement party next Saturday at the Ritz-Carlton. It's going to be huge, 200 people, all of Bradley's business associates, everyone who matters in the city." Then came the part that made my blood run cold. "Oh, and Rachel? Please try to, not embarrass us. Maybe don't mention the teaching thing too much? Bradley's colleagues are very successful people, and I'd hate for them to think our family isn't. Well, you understand." I understood perfectly. Even on her engagement day, Jessica couldn't resist taking a shot at my career. "I'll be there, Jess," I said simply. "Great. And maybe wear something nice? That navy dress you wore to Mom's birthday would be perfect. Nothing too attention-grabbing." The irony wasn't lost on me. In exactly 2 weeks, when NASA announced the crew for STS-157, Jessica would discover that her failed teacher sister was about to become more famous than she could ever imagine. The night before the engagement party, I got another call from NASA. "Dr. Carter, there's been a change in the timeline," my program coordinator said. Due to some media leaks about the mission, we're moving up the press announcement to Monday morning. But we're cleared to brief your immediate family this weekend if you'd like. I smiled as a plan formed in my mind. Actually, I said, I have a better idea. The engagement party was everything Jessica had promised: elegant, expensive, and filled with Houston's social elite. The ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton was draped in white and gold, with crystal chandeliers and enough flowers to stock a florist shop. I arrived fashionably late, wearing exactly what Jessica had suggested, that navy dress she thought was appropriate for a failed teacher. I mingled quietly, listening to Jessica hold court near the champagne fountain, regaling Bradley's colleagues with stories of her corporate success. That's when I heard it. "So, Jessica, tell us about your family," said one of Bradley's law partners, a distinguished man in his 50s. "Any other high achievers like yourself?" Jessica's laugh was like nails on a chalkboard. "Well, there's my sister Rachel," she said, gesturing vaguely in my direction. Well, let's just say not everyone can be successful, right? She's just a failed teacher at some inner-city school. Bless her heart, she tries, but some people just aren't meant for greatness." The group chuckled politely, clearly uncomfortable with her casual cruelty toward her own sister. "I mean, don't get me wrong," Jessica continued, warming to her favorite topic. "I love Rachel dearly, but someone has to be realistic about her limitations. Teaching high school physics to kids who'll probably end up in jail? That's not exactly a career path to success." Bradley tried to change the subject, but Jessica was just getting started. "The funny thing is, she actually thinks her little teaching job matters," she went on, her voice carrying across the ballroom. "She takes it so seriously, like she's changing the world or something. It's almost cute, in a pathetic way." I felt every eye in the room turn toward me. Some people looked embarrassed, others curious about how I would respond. My parents stood frozen near the cake table, clearly mortified by Jessica's public humiliation of me. That's when I decided it was time. I excused myself and walked calmly to the bathroom, where I had stashed a garment bag earlier that evening. Inside was something that would change my family's perception of me forever: my official NASA flight suit, complete with mission patches, name tag, and astronaut wings. I changed quickly, checking my appearance in the mirror. The navy blue flight suit fit perfectly, and the patches on my chest told the story Jessica didn't know: NASA logo, STS, 157 mission patch, International Space Station patch, and my name tag reading Dr. R. Carter, mission specialist. When I walked back into the ballroom wearing my NASA uniform, the effect was immediate and electric. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Champagne glasses paused halfway to lips. Every single person in that room turned to stare at the failed teacher, who had just walked in looking like she stepped out of a space movie. Jessica was still talking, her back to me, completely unaware of the sudden silence that had fallen over her perfect party. Honestly, I don't know what Rachel was thinking, staying in that dead-end job, she was saying to Bradley's senior partners. Some people just lack ambition, I guess. They're content being failures. "Jessica," Bradley said quietly, his eyes fixed on something behind her, "you might want to turn around." She spun around with an annoyed expression that froze completely when she saw me standing there in my NASA flight suit. "Hi, Jess," I said calmly, walking toward her group. "Sorry I'm late. I had to take a call from Johnson Space Center." The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Jessica's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. "Rachel," she whispered, why are you wearing?" "Oh, this," I said casually, gesturing to my uniform. "It's my NASA flight suit. I'm Dr. Rachel Carter, mission specialist for STS 157. We launch for the International Space Station in 18 months. Bradley's law partner, the one who had asked about successful family members, stepped forward with wide eyes. "Did you just say you're a NASA astronaut?" he asked in amazement. "Mission specialist, technically," I corrected. "I'm part of the Teacher in Space program. For the past 2 years, I've been training at Johnson Space Center while maintaining my teaching position. We were sworn to secrecy until the official announcement, which happens Monday morning." The room erupted in excited chatter. People pressed forward, asking questions about space travel, the International Space Station, and what it's like to train with NASA. Cameras came out as guests took pictures with a real astronaut at Jessica's engagement party. Meanwhile, Jessica stood frozen in the center of it all, her face cycling through emotions: shock, embarrassment, anger, and something that looked like dawning horror as she realized what she had just done. But you're just a teacher, she stammered, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm a teacher who's going to space, Jess, I replied gently. I'm a teacher who survived the most competitive selection process in the world. I'm a teacher who's trained alongside some of the most brilliant minds at NASA. And in 18 months, I'll be a teacher conducting experiments in zero gravity 250 miles above Earth. One of Bradley's colleagues, clearly impressed, shook my hand enthusiastically. Dr. Carter, this is incredible. A teacher astronaut. And you've been keeping this secret all this time? NASA required complete confidentiality during training, I explained. My family had no idea. They thought I was just taking night classes for my doctorate. Your doctorate? My mother's voice came from behind me, weak and confused. I turned to see my parents standing there, looking like their entire world had been turned upside down. My doctorate in aerospace engineering from Rice University, I said calmly. I finished it last year. It was part of the astronaut training program. My father sat down heavily in the nearest chair. You have a doctorate? You're an astronaut? And we never knew. I tried to tell you about my graduate studies, I said gently. But every time I mentioned school or my career goals, Jessica would change the subject to talk about her latest promotion or corporate success. Eventually, I stopped trying. The crowd around us had grown larger, with people pulling out phones to Google my name and the STS-157 mission. Within minutes, they found the NASA website with preliminary mission information and crew photos, including a professional headshot of me in my flight suit. Holy shit, someone whispered, showing their phone screen to others. She's really a NASA astronaut. Look, she's on their website. Jessica finally found her voice, but it came out as a desperate whisper. Rachel, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at my sister, the woman who had just spent 10 minutes publicly humiliating me in front of 200 people, calling me a failure and mocking my life choices, and felt a profound sadness rather than anger. I tried to tell you, Jess, I said quietly. For years, I tried to share what I was working toward. But every time I mentioned my studies or my goals, you'd interrupt to talk about your own success. Every family dinner became a platform for you to compare our careers and find me lacking. Eventually, I realized you weren't interested in my life unless it made you look better by comparison. The ballroom had gone quiet again, everyone straining to hear our conversation. But I was just... Jessica started, then stopped, apparently realizing there was no good way to finish that sentence. You were just being cruel, I said simply. And the sad part is, you genuinely believed that your corporate job made you more successful than someone working to become an astronaut. You were so convinced of your own superiority that you never bothered to really listen to anyone else. Bradley stepped forward, looking mortified by his fiancé's behavior. Dr. Carter, we had no idea. Jessica never mentioned that you were in graduate school, let alone training with NASA. This is incredible. It's fine, Bradley, I said, though we both knew it wasn't. Jessica sees what she wants to see. She's always been more interested in appearances than substance. One of the senior partners from Bradley's firm approached us, clearly starstruck. Dr. Carter, I hate to impose, but would you mind if I introduced you to some people? My daughter is studying aerospace engineering, and meeting a real astronaut would mean the world to her. I'd be happy to, I replied, then looked back at Jessica. I should probably mingle with your guests. Congratulations on your engagement, Jess. I hope you'll be happy. As I walked away, surrounded by excited party guests asking about space travel and NASA training, I heard Jessica behind me trying to salvage the situation. I always knew Rachel was smart, she was saying desperately to anyone who would listen. We're so proud of her. I didn't want to steal her thunder by announcing it before NASA made it official. But the damage was done. Everyone in that room had heard her call me a failed teacher and mock my life choices just minutes before discovering I was a NASA astronaut. Her attempts at backpedaling only made her look worse. For the rest of the evening, I was the center of attention. People wanted to know about zero-gravity training, life on the space station, and what it felt like to be selected for such an exclusive program. I answered questions, took photos, and watched as Jessica's engagement party became an impromptu celebration of her sister's space career. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Near the end of the evening, my parents approached me, both looking shell-shocked and ashamed. "Rachel, honey," my mother said, tears in her eyes, "we owe you such an apology." "We had no idea." "You had no idea because you never asked," I replied gently. For 2 years, every time we talked, the conversation was about Jessica's latest achievement or promotion. When I tried to mention my graduate work or research, you dismiss it as just school and change the subject back to Jessica's career. My father shook his head sadly. "We failed you. We were so focused on Jessica's immediate success that we completely missed what you were accomplishing." "I don't need your validation anymore, Dad," I said, and I meant it. NASA validated me. My fellow astronauts validated me. The kids I teach, who get excited about physics because I show them it can take you to space, they validate me every day. As the party wound down, Jessica finally cornered me near the coat check. "Rachel, please," she said, her voice desperate. "You have to understand, I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't want to know," I interrupted. "You were so invested in being the successful sister that you never considered I might be working towards something bigger than anything you'd ever achieved." "But I'm proud of you," she stammered. "I always have been." "No, Jess, you haven't," I said sadly. "You've been embarrassed by me. Tonight, in front of your fiancé's colleagues, you called me a failure and mocked my teaching career. You said I wasn't meant for greatness. The only reason you're claiming to be proud now is because everyone in this room knows that your failed teacher, sister, is about to become more famous than you'll ever be." Her face crumpled as the truth of my words hit home. "What can I do?" she whispered. "How can I fix this?" I looked at my sister, the woman who had spent years making me feel small and unsuccessful, who had publicly humiliated me just hours earlier, and felt something I hadn't expected: pity. "You can stop making everything a competition, Jess," I said quietly. "You can stop measuring your worth by putting other people down. And maybe, just maybe, you can learn that success isn't always about money and status symbols." I handed the coat check attendant my ticket and turned back to Jessica one last time. "I'm going to space, Jess. In 18 months, I'll be conducting experiments on the International Space Station, inspiring a new generation of students to pursue STEM careers and representing our country as an astronaut. Your corporate marketing job is fine, and I'm sure you're good at it. But don't ever again mistake your career for superiority over mine." As I walked out of the Ritz-Carlton that night, I could hear the excited chatter of party guests still discussing the revelation that the failed teacher was actually a NASA astronaut. Several people asked for my autograph and took selfies with me, already posting about meeting a real astronaut at an engagement party. The next morning, Jessica called me in tears. "Rachel, it's everywhere," she sobbed into the phone. "Someone posted a video of last night on social media. The part where I called you a failed teacher and then when you walked in with your NASA uniform, it's gone viral." I checked my phone and saw dozens of notifications. The video had indeed gone viral, with millions of views and thousands of comments. Most were supportive of me and critical of Jessica's behavior. "The comments are brutal," she continued, crying. "They're calling me a terrible sister, saying I'm jealous and small-minded. Bradley's firm is getting calls from reporters wanting to know about the mean sister who mocked a NASA astronaut." "I'm sorry that happened, Jess," I said, and I meant it. "But I didn't post that video." "I know you didn't," she said miserably. "One of Bradley's colleagues posted it with the caption, 'When you mock your sister for being a teacher,' and she shows up in a NASA uniform. It has 3 million views." The irony was perfect. Jessica, who lived for social media attention and carefully curated her online image, had become internet famous for all the wrong reasons. Monday morning, NASA officially announced the STS-157 crew, and I was thrust into a media whirlwind. Interviews, photo shoots, and appearances on national television shows. The story of the teacher astronaut whose sister mocked her at an engagement party became a feel-good narrative about perseverance and following your dreams despite family criticism. Jessica's engagement party video became part of the story, used by media outlets to illustrate how people often underestimate educators and dismiss careers in STEM fields. She became the unintentional face of family members who don't support each other's dreams. The wedding planning became strained as Jessica dealt with the fallout from her viral moment. Some of Bradley's colleagues' wives had seen the video and were less than enthusiastic about celebrating someone who had publicly humiliated her astronaut sister. 6 months later, as I continued my pre-flight training, Jessica reached out one more time. "Rachel," she said when I answered her call, "I've been thinking about what you said that night. About making everything a competition." "Okay," I replied cautiously. "You were right," she said quietly. "I was so focused on being the successful sister that I never celebrated your success. I was threatened by your intelligence, your dedication, your ability to inspire students. Instead of being proud, I tried to make you feel small." It was the first genuine apology I'd ever heard from her. "I appreciate you saying that, Jess," I said. "I want to be better," she continued. "I want to be the sister who brags about having an astronaut in the family instead of the one who calls her a failure." "Is it too late for that?" I thought about all the years of criticism, all the family dinners where she'd made me feel inadequate, and that terrible night at her engagement party when she'd publicly humiliated me before discovering who I really was. "It's not too late," I said finally. "But it's going to take time to rebuild trust." "I understand," she said. "And Rachel? When you're up there on the space station, looking down at Earth, I'll be down here telling everyone that my sister is an astronaut. And I'll mean it this time." 8 months later, I stood on the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, suited up and ready for my mission to the International Space Station. My parents were there, crying with pride. My students had made a banner that read, "Our teacher is going to space." And Jessica was there too, wearing a t-shirt that said, "My sister is an astronaut," and crying harder than anyone. As the shuttle launched and I felt the incredible power of the engines pushing us toward space, I thought about that night at the Ritz-Carlton when Jessica called me a failed teacher in front of 200 people. She had no idea that her failure sister was about to become one of the most recognizable educators in the world. The view from the International Space Station is indescribable. Earth floating in the void, no borders visible, just a beautiful blue marble spinning in space. From up there, corporate promotions and marketing careers seem pretty small. But teaching? Teaching reaches all the way to space. When I returned from my 6-month mission, I was invited to speak at schools, universities, and conferences around the world. The story of the teacher who became an astronaut inspired millions of students to pursue STEM careers. Jessica's engagement party video was still being shared, but now it had a different meaning. It became a cautionary tale about not judging others' dreams and a celebration of the power of education. My sister learned a valuable lesson that night: never underestimate a teacher. We might not drive BMWs or live in penthouses, but some of us are training to touch the stars. And when we do, the whole world celebrates, while those who mocked us are left explaining to viral video comments why they thought a NASA astronaut was a failure. The universe has a sense of humor like that.